welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, founder of a revolutionary medical sales training and mentorship program called the Medical Sales Career Builder, and I'm also host of the Medical Sales Podcast. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire world. It doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing and diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 10% performer within your role, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. And remember, I am a medical sales expert sharing my own opinion about this amazing industry and how it can change your life. Hello and welcome back to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel. And today we're going to do something a little different. We have started something called the Unfiltered Medical Sales Series. This is a series of talks that I'm currently doing with Todd Crowder, the unfiltered, raw reality of what goes on in medical sales. No subject is too taboo, from what it looks like when it comes to the money, when it comes to dating, when it comes to how to show up with your manager the right way, when it comes to all the sales strategies that no one's talking about that truly give you the edge. Everything you've ever thought or wondered about that happens in the medical sales world, this is where we're talking about it. You're going to learn those things that you've been so curious about that are going to move you forward, and more importantly, that can prevent you from making the same mistakes that so many make. So let's go ahead and jump in. Ooh, okay, so go back. What was that, a panel? Describe that scene again. Was that a panel interview? Yeah, give us the whole scene with all the characters in the room.
So we were interviewing for an associate rep coming in. My partner at the time, Kavisha, black female, she's like my sister. Her and I think just alike.
Sure.
We have discussions that probably most people would get very uncomfortable with.
Sure.
And then we had our manager who was Vietnam race, so Asian culture aspect of things. And we were interviewing this young black guy. He came in, no tie, came in kind of like crumpled up shirt. It hadn't been ironed.
Okay. And that wasn't like the style. Like this guy it seemed like he just either didn't know or didn't do it.
Both.
Okay.
No one prepped him. And so he's sitting there, and one of the questions we were asking him is like, why whole logic? And he looked around at us as a panel. He goes, I really like the fact of diversity. Mm-hmm. And I looked at the panel, looked back at him, and I go, what part of the panel is diversity? The white dude? and you thought that I would have slapped him or something. He started stumbling. And I go, wow. Why does that make you uncomfortable? Mm-hmm. I go, because you're going to get in the OR. And if that makes you feel uncomfortable, you have no idea what discussed in the OR, how things are discussed in the OR.
Sure.
You have a surgeon who could be the most racially divided surgeon, or could be on either side, could be racist towards whites, racist towards blacks, could have a God complex, which is probably more likely than anything.
Sure.
And if you're uncomfortable with me making a slight humor of looking around the room and the only person that is the odd man out is the white dude sitting in the room, you have a bigger problem. And I told him, I said, you're not cut from the cloth to do this job. Wow. Not because you're not intelligent.
Sure. But
because you didn't come prepared for the most uncomfortableness that should be in an interview.
Okay.
I believe, and I know this to my core, an interview should not be comfortable. An interview should be pushing the limits. This is like dating. You want to make your best impression, so you should be able to handle the most difficult situations.
Right. You know what? I can get with that, because if someone if you're naturally allowing that environment to be uncomfortable, and someone has the aptitude to make it comfortable and make the interview conversational, I mean, how is it not a signal that you're dealing with a rock star that you probably want on your team?
100%. Like, it would have been fine with him to go, oh, but majority of your company is white. Okay, that's funny. Yeah, okay, you got me back. Okay, so you're willing to engage what I'm trying to make uncomfortable.
Sure.
Like, my first question is always fear or money. What drives you? because everybody's so used to every other question there is. And I think if you can get it, there's really no wrong answer, because how the person answers tells you what's going to motivate them and how you need to motivate them to move.
So, okay. So so you're saying that you ask fear or money. What if it's neither?
Then I question, what are you doing?
Okay. So what if they say, I want
What
to
is your why then?
okay.
Be able to
And what if
push
they
it.
say my why is the end result of what this business does? That's why I'm here. If I know that if I'm committed to that and I help create that, then the money's going to come. And I'm definitely not operating off of fear. I'm here because I want the end result of what this business does.
But what was you saying? The end result also pays you.
Yeah, I would say.
So it's money that still drives you.
Okay, hold on. Okay, let's talk about it. So let's make it medical sales specific. So if I'm in an interview and truly all I care about, not all, but what I really, really care about is the patient impact I'm going to have. And I know that as long as I'm committed to that and I do a good job, the money will come. But that is not what I'm focused on. I'm truly focused on the patient impact. How do I appease answering your question of fear of money?
Okay, so you're saying by the holistic aspect of how the company, they work on curing prostate cancer.
Sure.
My dad and my grandfather both had prostate cancer.
Sure.
I'm gun ho. It's a passion of
Yep.
mine.
I'm ready to go.
Fantastic.
Let's cure this thing. Yep.
Then that's, you know what, I'm gonna look at them and go, great. I'm gonna pay you $80,000 a year flat salary. You go ahead and do it.
Okay.
If money's not your driver, then you shouldn't worry about how much or how little I pay you.
Okay. Okay.
Because then I'm going to make them stumble, right? Because then you've put yourself in, I am virtuous in my calling to be able to do this. We all should be. You shouldn't get in medical sales if you don't want to see a betterment of your community, of your lifestyle, and what you can do. Everyone should do it. But don't tell me that money doesn't help drive that, because if that's the case, then why don't I just pay you a flat salary? I'll keep the commissions for everything, and you don't have a leg to stand on. You shouldn't worry about it then.
I hear you. Okay.
So I've done this over the years to where if someone just comes at me with it, like oh, I just want to see the best, because my mother, I am so glad somebody was able to rescue your mother. And I'm glad that the company's done the research to be able to help you with breast care, and your mother survived breast care. The salary is $50,000. Total OTE, 55. We're good? Fantastic, because I love the fact that you're going to work for Virtue and not have to worry. Stocks are going to love the fact that we can get a bunch of you guys in here. That's not what they want to hear all of a sudden. Now it's, well, you know, money. Oh, so money does drive you.
Okay.
Well, there's also fear.
Okay.
Fear drives a lot of people. It drove me for years because fear of, one, not being successful, not accomplishing the mission, and not living up to the ghost that set the big shadow behind me and my dad.
So then how do you interpret the candidate that says, I just want to make some money, man? Look, healthcare is a good space. I think it's cool that the end results, these patients have a better life. But honestly, I'm here because I just want to make money. I want to make as much as possible. And that's that.
Great. What is your dollar amount you want to make?
I want to make $500,000 a year if I can. If I can't do it
are you willing to do what needs to be done to get there?
Absolutely. That's all I care about. Money, 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 money. When I wake up, I'm thinking about the dollar.
Great. We're going to teach you how to work your commission plan and get the results for the patient at the same time. Because I want somebody who knows how to understand the business acumen of working commission plan. Too many reps get in there and they say the commission plan to OTE is 300. And they get the company, what do? I mean, you've been in this. They bombard you with 7 different things. And they all look at it and they go, oh, we've got to get all these buckets. But hold on a second. If you diagnose exactly how they're going to pay you, that should interpret what you go do. Because where they truly pay you is what they truly need to have happen.
Sure.
When I worked for Hologic, they came out with this disposable scope. And the scope reimbursement was like $60.
Sure.
So you want me to go spend 3 months to gain $60 a scope?
That's it. Right.
Or do you want me to go get a deal that can close in and have thousands upon thousands repeated business?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So then from your perspective, Todd, you want that person that's money hungry and that's all they care about. Like you want them on your team.
Yes, because then you know what they're going to do? They're going to go buy a new car. They're going to go buy a big house. And they're going to make money the reason why they wake up every day, regardless of whether they feel sick or not, whether they feel like they want to just be burned out. They're going to be their own self driver.
So then what
I loved when reps went and bought new cars.
so so
I
so
celebrated with them.
but what
Yes.
about but what about the reps or not even they're not even reps yet, but what about the people that all they do care about is the money? They get the job. They realize how hard it is to make the money they want because of what's required and they bail. How do you weed them out?
Well, I think it's because that's not the only aspect that you look for. I mean, money's a driver, but that's not the end of the interview.
Sure.
That is an aspect that it shows me as a manager, how am I going to motivate them? How am I going to move them? If fear moves them, then you need to place them in a situation that conquers that fear. If money moves them, they need to be able to understand how they're going to maximize the ability to make the money. It's
Sure.
not you have this interview question, either you make the checklist or you don't, and then we move forward. It is a encompassing of how the individual thinks. It is what moves them. Is their why really matching up with what they're telling me?
Hmm.
So you first ask, what is your why? Why do you want to do this?
Hmm.
And you tell me, well, I've had series of breast care family, or I've had prostate cancer, or I've
Sure.
just,
Sure.
I've had a passion of whatever the case might be, whatever you're interviewing for.
Sure.
And then you turn around and can't answer that question, fear of money. And you come back and you go, well, I want to make as much money as I possibly can. Great. Let's talk about how you want to do it and what it takes to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So it's not just as a black and white situation where you just go fear of money and there's two answers, because they're both correct.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. So
It just
then
allows me to see the whole person, to be
so
able
then
to
I'm
understand what
curious
exactly it is.
from your perspective, Todd, like what's the worst answer you get when you ask that question? And what's the best answer you get when you ask that question?
The best answer is what motivates them, followed by points behind it.
Okay.
Fear, because like I said, these things behind me and I want to conquer. I had a guy one time who was a phenomenal. He goes, fear, because I grew up poor. I grew up in New Orleans and I never want to go back.
Mm,
I want to be the success that the kids talk about. So my drive is to be better and be more accomplished than anything else. That kid was phenomenal.
mm,
Then I had my best hire ever. He's in Austin, Texas. Maybe I shouldn't use people's names all the time, but he was my best hire out of Austin, Texas. The guy was an elite 300-meter hurdle individual out of Austin,
sure.
Texas.
Sure.
I
Okay.
mean, speed like I've never seen before.
Sure.
Most humbled guy in the world. Came from the most humble beginnings. And all he wanted to do was be able to make money so he could go back and support his family.
Mm, mm. Okay. So on the flip side, what are the worst answers? What are the answers that signal to you right away that this is not it?
Their inability to answer either one.
Okay.
So when you tell me money, great. So you're able to do it. You're going to do whatever it takes. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to paint the absolute worst picture that you could possibly have for being a medical sales rep.
Let's do it. I want to hear it. Let's
So you're going to
paint a
wake
picture.
up.
Paint a picture right now.
All right. So you tell me money is your motivating factor.
Yeah, money. It's money, Todd. It's all I care. I wake up and I think about that dollar, Todd. That's why I'm here.
Great. So I expect you in that hospital every morning at 6 a.m.
No problem.
I would expect you to be able to be there until the last case is done. You're going to get kicked in the teeth. The hospital we're sending you into first, the hospital does not like reps, does not like us. We have no friends. We have no contract. And realistically, you have no abilities to really get in the facility. If you land this, you'll guarantee yourself $500,000 a year. Now, it's going to probably take you about 1.5 years to get through this entire process in order to be able to get to and earn the right to even walk in the door, much less even sell. If you can't get Dr. Jones and Dr. Smith and Dr. Fairbrother, forget about it.
So then I say, I love everything I'm hearing. Sign me up.
That's fantastic. Great. So what we're going to do, do you even know these people by chance?
Know the doctors?
Yeah.
No, I'm new. I'm green.
You're
Remember,
great.
Todd, I'm green. So I don't know anybody yet.
Walk me through now. Walk me through how you're going to go get in front of these three major doctors.
Okay. So let's pretend I laid out a fair plan because I've talked to a couple reps from the company. I know how this business works, and I give you a plan that actually works. What happens next?
So now, how soon do you think on a timeline? Because I tell you, A, B's, and C's. A's 30 days, B's anywhere between that same quarter, and C's long term. Right. I want you to rank right now how quickly you think you can have those doctors working in the A, B, and C format.
Well, Todd, I talked to your entire team, and it seems like the average is about a year, and maybe in some cases a year and a half. So, Todd, I'm ready for that. I will do whatever it takes, and I'm ready for that year and a half.
So that year and a half, you understand then your pay is going to be nil. You're going to have to sit there and drudge through and basically live off your base pay and a little bit of commissions on other accounts that are going to become distracted to you because you might have some growth in other accounts. But your biggest thing that you say money drives you, your big whale is going to be sitting there in front of you. Are you willing to do that?
Todd, if $500 million on the other side of me having to go through that for a year and a half, please tell me where I can sign.
That is fantastic because I know you're going to do it. And if you don't, you understand the consequences that you're not going to make the money that you expect to make. And in doing so, I'll probably have to replace you in about that year and a half. You understand that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I do understand that. I'm ready.
That's fantastic. Okay. So now all you have to do is pass through training.
So Todd, let me ask you, man. Do people come off like the way I did? Or when you put it that way, do you see people cower?
I see a lot more cower.
Really?
Than I do see boldness to go stand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased, right? I come from this world.
Well, so you know the game too. Yeah, I mean, we can easily sit there and paint a picture for it.
Right. But wow, so you see most people cower. Where do they cower? They cower at the year and a half and not making any money. They cower before that. They cower at the get your teeth kicked in. Where do they cower?
They cower the fact they see medical sales as this opportunity to have a six-figure salary or greater without understanding the work that it takes to be able to get to and earn the right to have it. None of this is given to you. I will not give somebody, especially green, a territory in which they are gifted and have an inflated thought process of themselves. That's a disservice. I've seen reps that have been given massive territories and they've won COE. And I know for a fact the territory was already set up. Mm-hmm. So now this rep thinks they're fantastic. And as soon as adversity hits, what happens?
They bail. Just bail.
They stuff the territory as much as they can and they get out and all of a sudden that territory is done. I'd rather build a rep that is willing to sit there and say, I'm going to get kicked in a year and a half and I'm okay with it. And then I'm going to earn my right because I know then when the next competitor comes through, they're not going to run. No, my game is to try to build you to where you get your teeth kicked in, dirt in your gravel, and you're able to sit there and move forward without having to sit there and go, oh no, the competitor's in the house. What do I do? I want you to be able to know, like I had for my first guy into my first territory, which was like that I had the text giving me a text message. Well, pager messages back when I started. They would page me and that little pager would go off. They simply had little signals. It was like 411 would be a rep would be in the hospital. Sure. That was a competitor. So that's how old I got. And so I would have that, and I still have it today. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm sitting here right now and we're doing this stuff with L&D and we have a doctor that sit there and talk to a competitive rep, I have nurses and techs that will absolutely send me a text, said, hey, somebody went and go talk to Dr. Tackett. Mm-hmm. Let you know. Mm-hmm. The competitor went and saw him.
Okay. All right. I want to get into more of this interview. This is fantastic. So, there's some candid questions that are always asked every interview, right? Why do you want to be here? You just asked it. I love your fear of money proposition. I think that sounds extremely effective to get to the heart of what this person's here doing. There's a question, though, that a lot of people still struggle to answer, and that is, walk me through your resume. When you ask that question, Todd, what are you expecting to hear?
So I've gotten away from that, to be honest with you. Because what does your resume tell me? It tells me it's basically like going to sit down there at a national sales meeting or a regional sales meeting and somebody stands up and reads you your PowerPoint. I have to have the resume ahead of time.
Okay.
And I make my notes on the person's resume and I pinpoint things that
you just get into the heart of what you want to know about the resume. So you're saying you don't ask that question, walk with your resume. Okay. So then let's phrase it this way. A lot of managers still do.
I know.
In your opinion, what is the most powerful way an individual can answer that question?
I think the most powerful way is an individual to understand how do you tie your resume that is presented in front of them, especially brand new right out of college, to the why you just explained you did. So I don't want somebody that they're brand new right out of college. I've had plenty of kids that have come right out of college that I've worked with. Some have been phenomenal. Some have been a total train wreck.
Sure.
I need to understand and make sure that the why you did what you did in college was intentional and not just haphazard. If they were part of a sorority, if they were part of a fraternity, what was the reasoning? What did you do? If you're part of ROTC, what did you do in ROTC? If you were part of a club that was for picking up trash on the side of the road, that's fantastic. I can work with, but I need to understand the why you just told me matches with the resume that we're walking through. And if it doesn't, why?
Okay. So
why doesn't it match? Because each thing, it's kind of, I always picture it's kind of like playing flag football with my 8-year-old.
Okay.
Every play I run the exact same thing, but it builds on each other. So I make the defense by the end of the game guessing what we're doing on offense. So each question has to build to the next level and dig deeper in that person. If you're asking me, walking me through your resume, and you start off with, well, my buddies were doing this, and I thought it was a great time, and we had a blast, and did you hold any position? Nah, I just wanted to be able to live college life. So nothing you were doing was intentional for your future.
Sure.
We've all been there. We all were in college.
Yeah. Okay.
But you're at a different level when you go to medical sales. This is not a knock against any other industry. But if you're doing Cintas and you're working with uniforms, the intent, a lot of it has to do with commercialization of things. That's bigger than you as an individual, as a salesperson.
Sure.
When you go work in medical device, now pharma might be different. I've never been part of pharma. But when you're working in medical device, regardless of what it is, you have to have intention of what you're doing each and every day. And decisions should be intentional that led you to this position.
So what if you're a clinician? What if you're not a college student? What if you're a clinician, nurse, or a PT? You've been effectively working in healthcare for the last 10 years, 5 years, and you get that question, walk me through your resume, and you're trying to make the case of why you want to make this transition to medical device. In your opinion, what's the most powerful way a clinician can answer that type of question?
We have to understand, how are you relatable to other people? Okay. There's no question you're coming from a nursing background that you can walk somebody through this. What I don't need, 1999, I was in El Paso, Texas. The rep that was there was a doctor from Mexico, but did not want to go back through all the hoops required for him to have a doctor. So he got into medical device.
Sure. Yeah, happens all the time. Yep.
Worst rep I'd ever seen in my entire life. And looking back 25 years, he's still the rep, because he had the arrogance and the God complex of a clinician telling a doctor how to put a trocar in when trocars were working out. And how to staple. Doctor, you're holding the thing wrong. No, doctor, let me show you. And would grab. And it was even just right out of the military, just knowing that you're not relatable.
Sure.
I have to know that the clinician, the PT, the physical therapist, the OTE, the nurse, the neonatal nurse, whatever specialty you came from a clinician aspect, I need to know that you're a likable individual because I've been in the OR with plenty of people that are great clinicians. Nurse wise, they could walk you through and help you with a hysterectomy blindfolded. But every doctor's going to hate to be in the room with you.
Sure, sure.
So you've got to prove to me, not your clinician report. I will give you that. You could probably walk circles around me, talk about the drugs needed. But if I can't, my dad had a thing back in the day, so he said he'd have I call it the 3-hour rule. And my dad was a little bit rough around the edges. And he would say, if I can't get in the car and ride with this person with 3 hours without wanting to punch them in the face, then they're not my guy.
Okay, so then let's take it back to the question then. So if I'm a clinician and I'm sitting in front of a hiring manager that's asking me, walk me through your resume, you're proposing that the clinician focus on how they make themselves relatable to the physicians they work with?
How they make themselves relatable to the physician, how quickly they can bond with the physician and the team. Because no one should sit there. If you're coming from working inside with an, if you're working with a urologist and you're the first assistant, you're a nurse that's always with the robot, always with the nurse.
Yep.
You should know that should not be the questions a manager should ask. So walk me through your resume. Let me tell you about a time where I was able to help the rep and really got me excited about being able to do this because of 1, 2, 3. My point shouldn't be back to, well, I fixed the robot for the rep because they didn't know what they were doing. So I was able to step in. Because if you're able to step in, then I just need you as an on-site individual. I don't need you as a salesperson.
Okay.
I can have the stewards come have you set up video, and you can go sit in there and plug in the video for everybody and get you out of being nursing. And that's nothing wrong with that profession. That's not to belittle that profession, but they're not selling.
Okay.
If you're telling me you want to go to a sales role, I need to understand why you did what you did, how did it help the situation, and are you strictly taking credit for it, or as a good salesperson, humbly give credit to everybody else but yourself in the room?
So maybe, okay, so then if you get the question, walk me through your resume, you're suggesting you almost answer that like you're answering a behavioral question. Situation, task, action, result. I guess you say, well, I've been here, here, and here, but most recently there was a time I did this within this position, and you go through the situation, task, action, result, and you highlight how you, I guess, worked in a you said don't take credit, so worked kind of like a team perspective to address whatever issue with your solution, and that is probably the most powerful way you can answer walk me through your resume. I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know our programs cover the entire career of a medical sales professional. From getting into the medical sales industry, to training on how to be a top performer in the medical sales industry, to masterfully navigating your career to executive level leadership. These programs are personalized and customized for your specific career and background, and trained by over 50 experts, including surgeons. Our results speak for ourselves, and we're landing positions for our candidates in less than 120 days in top medical technology companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Merck, Abbott, you name it. Would you run an Ironman race without training and a strategy? You wouldn't. So why are you trying to do the same with a medical sales position? You need training, you need a strategy, and you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and let's get you into the position that you've always dreamed of.
Correct. Because the clinician shouldn't be questioned unless they're like, just finished nursing school. I did a year of nursing and I was in the NICU and I couldn't stand being around babies and I jumped out. You might have a little more things you need to clarify with your clinician aspect. But if you've been a first assist, if you've been a PA, if you've been a nurse for 5 years or greater, we should have an understanding that you're clinically good to go.
So showcase your team dynamic and sales chops, and really not even sales chops, rapport building and relationship building chops in your most recent role, in addition to just quickly explaining how you even got to that role. That's probably the best way. Okay, that's for the clinician. And then for the college student, you're saying you want to hear, actually give that to me again. What do you want to hear from that new college grad?
That if you're going to get into medical device, you've got to have a thought process that intentions equal to your why. Like there was a kid that called me up out of the blue. He was a sophomore in college. Anyway, he asked, he heard our podcast. And he said, what should I be doing right now? To me, that's fantastic. I got a sophomore wanting to know what he could do
Get
now.
about his business. Yeah, absolutely.
I said, I would contact Ethicon, Medtronic, Applied, Hologic, the big guys, Strikers. They do internships. You, as a young man, young woman, need to go find a marketing internship as soon as you can with these companies. Because I don't care. When you get to the big guys, you can go through the headhunters. That's fantastic. But the individual that just got their position through us, working through this, got it because of what? Relationships, networking. You can pour all your resumes you want to, and some of the most fantastic individuals you got out there, whoever you want to name, who've been recruiters for a long time. But if Samuel has been working inside of Medtronic as a marketing individual during internship, every manager knows who that is.
No, look, that's a fantastic question from that kid. And of course, that's an answer that's going to take him far. But going back to that college grad that didn't think that way, that wants to be in medical device or medical sales in general, and is thinking, and he gets that question, walk me through your resume for a hiring manager. The most powerful way that new college grad can answer that question is to say what?
They need to display to me what they've done to sacrifice, what they've done to go through hard times, what they've been able to do to go above and beyond, where they put in long hours to get a result that's going to take them a long time to get. Because what do you do each day? You wake up every morning, you're in the OR by 6:30, 6:45. You don't have a time frame in which you're going to leave. You're going to be pushed around, kicked around, told no. You walk through a door that says no one should enter. You got to sign in. They make it more difficult. Now you got to wear goofy outfits. You got time and time again, you've got to go pay $700 to go earn the right to go stand in the hallway and have someone tell you they don't want you here. And so you've got to show as a new college grad that you understand that being a medical device requires sacrifice, long hours, arduous work, and willingness to continue when that work doesn't go right. And that day seems like, gosh, I just want to go home.
Okay, I love this. So now let's talk about where some of that's a given, right? The Cintas rep, or the knife selling rep, or the alarm system rep that has done really well. And gosh, much big ups if you've successfully sold knives and you clearly got something going on. So let's go to that. And there's now in front of you, or not you, but they're in front of a hiring manager that says, okay, walk me through your resume. What's the most powerful way that type of individual can answer that same question?
What is their biggest whale they've conquered? And how did the steps get to be able to do it?
Okay.
Why did it take that period of time? What adversity you overcame? And what was the end result?
Okay.
You don't have to have one.
Yeah. You can have. It says walk with your resume, so you can have one in each position you had for the last 3 or 4 years.
I enjoy hearing somebody that put all the hours in the work, and this is not popular. I get it, but failed.
Right.
Because then I know, okay, well then what'd you do then? I got back up and I met with this person. I went back and I tried to get through it again, and it failed. But I learned this.
Got it.
There's a guy that was a rep, not for me, but a counterpart of mine. And his job, his wife and him lived in Savannah, Georgia, and he got on the road 3 days a week and flew to California and knocked on door by door selling solar panels for houses.
Wow.
And I said, you know what? You're the guy.
Yeah, that's a hard sell.
That's the guy. And the other manager was sitting there with me, and I was like, no, that's the guy. You can stop all interviews.
Yeah.
You're going to have the Michael Jordan walk in here of sales to be that guy, because I can tell you what, that guy's grit and that hard work, talent can take you very far.
Sure.
But hard work and a little talent will take you even further.
Absolutely.
Because you were sitting there in LA working south side of LA, knocking on doors, trying to sell solar panels to a house.
Mm-hmm.
And the stories that man could tell, I mean, I was like, dude, you're it. You're in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So I want to ask now, there's different types of hiring managers, right? There's the Todd style, there's the walk me through your resume style. And then there are managers out there that want to hear about why are you connected to the space? What's the heart behind it? We're all going to make money in here, but what else goes beyond the money? How should a candidate approach this? What are some telltale signs a candidate can maybe ask or pick up on to know who they're dealing with that's interviewing them, so they answer things in the vein of what that interviewer is going to best receive?
So in 25 years, I've seen all sorts of interview styles. Um, you you have to do your homework.
Okay.
If you go in there blindly, you're more than likely
Let's be more
you're not
specific
going to do
though,
it.
because what does blindly mean? Are we talking about the company? Are we talking about the products? Are we talking about the actual interviewer themselves? Like when you say you have to
The
go and
interviewer
prepare, let's be
themselves.
specific. Okay,
The
the interviewer.
interviewer themselves. If I'm going to go sit there in front of Samuel and have an interview, I want to know where Samuel went to school. I want to find out people that have worked with him. I want to find out who he's connected to in LinkedIn and maybe go connect with them. Maybe somebody that doesn't work with him, maybe it's a personal individual. I want to try to find out what it is. I remember one of the guys I interviewed with who was the vice president at the time. And he has the want to make you too comfortable so that you let your guard down and become
Mm,
a little
mm,
bit almost unprofessional.
That's okay.
And
That's
so he'll
interesting.
lean back and he'll smile. He'll take his tie down. And yeah. So I leaned in. When he leaned back, I leaned in. And then I knew the fact that the individual played college ball. I went and looked up his high school. There was a paper that was written about him, about how he made a C in his class and his dad suspended him. His coach did, but he made a C in the class and he was suspended from the team for 3 weeks because until he got his grade up to a B.
Wow, wow.
And so he's sitting there grilling me with these questions. And he said, "What questions do you have for me?" And I looked at him and I said, "How hard was it to sit out for 3 weeks in football? Because that's your life. You went on and played in the NFL."
And you became his instant fan. He was like, "Oh man, this kid, wow."
Because you sit there and you have to. In today's world, there is no excuse. Back when I first started, you got the luck of the draw. And you had to be you. You had to read quick. But here, there's no reason why you shouldn't have some inkling of who this individual is you're sitting in front of. Now, if they bring other reps inside of the interview, okay, you might get a little bit sidetracked. But the actual portion, you need to find out as much information because your questions, the mistake. What do you consider the ideal rep is? What do you think it takes to succeed? What do you think? I mean, when you hear those questions as a manager, should be these days, should be that person didn't study anything.
So then, okay. So our program, the Medical Sales Career Builder in our company UIS, and you know that we literally work with candidates to help them bring out their most authentic selves, interview powerfully, and get these medical sales positions. We do have it's not happening most of the time. I'll just admit that. Maybe 30% of the time, we have our candidates that are like, "Samuel, I have scorched the earth, and I cannot find anything about this hiring. Even on LinkedIn, this hiring manager is not even showing their picture. They're on LinkedIn maybe every blue moon. I see the college they went to. I see the high school they went, or I see whatever, their college and their career track, but I got nothing else. There's nothing else for me to find out. And I got an interview 2 days from now." So when you hear that, Todd, and you're like, "Well, you need to get better prepared," what are you advising that candidate to go and do?
So if it's the manager, who did you talk to on the team?
Right. Okay. Okay. So let's say,
So
okay, and
because go ahead.
let's take it further now. And I'm not going to excuse the candidate, right? Because if they can't find someone to talk to, that might even be a separate issue. But let's pretend for whatever reason that is the case in this situation, and stonewalled, right? They can't, for whatever reason, they can't get access to anyone. Or here's an even more realistic situation. They got the opportunity, the recruiter called them, the interviews in 2 or 3 days. No one has been able to respond. They've been after it, trying to get in front of someone to talk to. They can't get a hold of no one. the hiring manager's barely on LinkedIn. They can find no information, and they got this interview coming up. What can they do to really set themselves up for success?
Find out the culture from somewhere else inside the company. It might not be the direct team. Maybe it's the Southeast team, and the Southeast manager does not want to be social media, anti-social media, tells the reps you're not to give anybody any information, locked down, but he can't control everybody. Because that person then becomes that rep's big whale to go get. And if they can find out information on them, you know that individual is going to go take what it takes to get inside that difficult account, those difficult doctors.
So are you advising like a mass blast to every single rep in the company?
No, I think you find out if you have we'll just pick on the Southeast. If you have the Southeast, they probably have like a Mid-South or a Texas or a Mid-Atlantic, and see if you can go find those reps.
Okay.
Because the whole company is not going to be on lockdown. You've got too many people that love to see themselves on LinkedIn.
Facts. Okay. But,
or Facebook, or TikTok, or Instagram, or some other thing that I don't have.
Okay, well, to do that then, it's going to require you to blast everyone.
It requires you to be strategic in how you do it. You can't go send a mass email out to everybody. That can be because then all of a sudden people start talking.
They sure do.
And then you just look like a desperate individual.
And that's put you on the list.
Yeah. Because you don't know if that individual is going to go call the manager and go, hey, look, Todd, man, we were talking as a team up here in the Atlantic, and dude, he hit 7 out of 8 of us with the exact same email asking the exact same questions, dude. Do not, Samuel, don't do it, man. He's not the guy.
So then
you've got to, so if it's the Atlantic, you got to find, maybe you find there's a couple of those team members on LinkedIn, and maybe go look at their social media. And then maybe on the other team, you go find them on LinkedIn, and maybe you contact that individual in a different area or district or region through LinkedIn. And then maybe you can make some different contacts. The last guy that worked with me, it was my associate rep. He did do the blast. And he blasted everybody. To a point where I finally just gave up and I said, okay, let me talk to this kid.
Sure.
And he actually was wonderful. Self-made individual.
Wow.
Put himself through college, went and worked in Alaska for a year just so he could be able to earn his way for his degree. So sometimes it does work for you in your favor. Most of the time it won't. But I suggest you don't just narrow yourself down to one type of social media of an individual or individuals you're trying to get to that company to.
Okay, so let's take it even further. So let's say you've done all that. Nothing. You got nothing. Now the interview's tomorrow. Time is a ticking. You've done it all. You've been strategic. You've been
knowledgeable individual with the company and what the company has said from a stock standpoint. If it's a privately held company, from any information about the company.
Sure.
And scour that and be able to understand and pronounce the names of the products correctly.
Sure. And no, so all that, you got all that. I'm asking, what's the signal to know the type of hiring manager you're dealing with? If you've done it all, you've tried everything, and the strategic way of getting information before the interview was just impossible. It's not available for whatever reason. And now the interview is tomorrow morning, and you get to just go there and give it your best. You get to that interview. Is there a question you can ask? Is there something you can say? Is there something you can do to get the signal that, okay, this guy, I need to be ready to have that fear and money conversation. Or this guy, I need to be able to show when he asks me to walk through your resume, or this girl, when you ask me to walk through your resume, I can quickly do that and pick a few positions where I really overcome the biggest of odds. How do you identify who you're dealing with?
To me, if it's now, this is me. I'm like I said.
I
will say how I would handle it.
Opinions. These are opinions. Okay.
First thing I'm going to ask them, sit down. I'm going to thank them for their time. Honestly, before we get to this interview and go through all this stuff, since I've listened and looked at the different things, different procedures, and looked at the culture, I want to ask you right from the start, what made you want to be able to lead this team the way you're leading it? I start the interview because everybody always assumes the interview is just about the manager interviewing the
Absolutely. Yeah,
individual.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to start the interview asking the first question.
Ask the first question. We teach that in our program. Ask the first question. But I like the question you asked. So say it one more time.
What made you and how did you get to a point where you wanted to lead this team?
So how did you get to a point where you want to lead this team, or
Yeah.
or what makes you lead this team the way you're currently leading
You
it?
can ask either way. It's going to get you this. It's going to get you the similar result to it, but that gives you right away the psyche of the individual. Am I a micromanager? Because they're saying, well, I've always felt myself to be a strong leader. I lead people by example. I sit there and I'm going to be able to tell them how to be able to get to the. As soon as you heard the words more I than we,
Micromanager.
then you know right away if you take this job, that I is going to be sitting on top of you the entire time.
Sure.
So I'm a proponent. If you know nothing, because that's how we went back in the day. I still remember the days you had to go to the hospital and lie to the little people in front of the thing and say, we just moved here, so can I have a book by the doctors? And you go home and you go look all these doctors in the book and find anything because there was no internet that was all scared to find everybody. So you have to take charge. This interview is about you wanting to display yourself for this and make sure you're a fit, but also showing that you are the individual that you want to be for this company. So take control of it. Just like you would take control of the OR, you need to take control of the interview to start off with.
I love it. Okay, let's fast forward to the close of the interview. What is the most powerful close you've ever heard?
Golly. Most everybody fails at this one thing. If I hear one more time, is there a red flag? Do you see any red flags for me coming up to be able to have this job position or move forward in the next position? There is now. To me, you have to have the assumptive close. The assumptive close meaning that I am the candidate moving forward. And you have to project, maybe even with a little bit of arrogance, but not overabundance of it. So, Samuel, when can we take the next step? I want somebody, because I know that person's going to be sitting there, and I only can judge it from the OR. Different types, pharmaceuticals, different types of sales reps, different types of industries might have a different type of feel. But I, in the OR, have to know that somebody is going to command the OR. Because I've told you before, there's two types of reps. There's asses and assets.
Ooh,
and
assets and assets. That's going to be the name of a show right there. Assets and assets. I like that. Okay, keep going.
There's only two that walk in the OR. They've got plenty of asses that walk in the OR. You have to be an asset. And to be an asset, you have to be able to command a room without being overbearing. But you have to be able to have the command of that room. So I'd rather have an assumptive close that I am the candidate moving forward and trying to get him to schedule or her to schedule the next step.
So give me what that sounds like. The interview's coming to a close. I'm the hiring manager. You're the candidate, and I'm like, okay. Well, thank you for the time, Todd. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, Samuel. So when can we go ahead and set up the next time that we can either talk or meet face to face, or with your manager, so we can move this thing forward?
You know what, Todd? We'll let you know. We have a lot of people to interview. You know how these processes go, so we'll reach back out to you.
Okay. So when you're in the process of reaching back out, what would make you stop and not go ahead and move forward? Because I understand that each day goes by is money lost to you in your region and that position being open.
Well, you know what, Todd? What would make me stop? I really want someone with a lot of experience. I know you don't have as much, so some of that would make me stop. But yeah, we'll let you know. We're going to talk to some other people, and thank you so much for coming.
You mentioned my experience. What about my experience? Because I haven't worked into the field, or because my presentation to you doesn't show that I am capable of working in the field?
Because you haven't worked in the field. Your presentation was actually great, but the fact remains you don't have that actual experience, and some of the other candidates do. So we just got to weigh our options.
So what is the best aspect when you look through this candidates? Experience or presentation? Because my understanding, having a little bit of knowledge that has come through here, that being able to command a room versus just knowledge is actually can be more of a presentation to the surgeon and to other clinicians in the room, can be more beneficial than, in other words, just having just the experience. Because I can build relationships quicker by being able to be that versus just coming in there and not saying that they're acting as know-it-alls, but maybe presumptuously acting as a know-it-all in front of the doctors, costing you more time and business than moving forward as somebody that wants to be and eagerly and wants to be able to do whatever it takes.
You know what, Todd? That is something to really consider. I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you for that. We're definitely going to take that into consideration.
Fantastic. I'll look forward to hearing from you, and I'll go ahead and make sure that I'm ready at moment's notice in which you want to be able to move forward.
Okay. I hear you. You know what? You know what I do like about that close? You challenged me, man. Like, you did not let me off the hook, which is cool. We actually train our candidates to not present it negatively, though. So you said, is there anything that'll make you stop? We feel that if you say stop, like, how is that hiring manager not going to filter through all the things that would make them stop? And we actually try to turn that over and say, is there anything else I could show that would give you the confidence to moving forward? What else could I show you, or what else could I describe that just to keep it positive, so that you're not literally looking for something that would make you stop?
Well, the only reason why I've ever used stop versus what red flags is the word stop is because, just like you did, now I know in my next sentence, I've got to show that being clinical isn't necessarily beneficial.
Sure.
So I then can sit there and pivot and try to pivot your mind, saying each day that you're waiting on this thing versus someone that you believe, and it makes you say, oh no, your presentation was wonderful. That's wonderful. If you came back and said, well, your presentation lacked a little bit and you don't have the experience, I think now you're at a point where you realize, oh, you're just out of the ballgame. They're just now trying to get you out the door because now they really have somebody else in mind. And you're just we had to have so many people to interview. We just can't say, hey, Samuel's our guy. We have to legally open up to everybody. We have to draw a requisition, and we're just doing this as a filler so that we can go ahead and give Samuel the job.
And that wraps up our first episode of the Unfiltered Medical Sales Series. Todd was dropping some real gems, real pearls of wisdom. I love the discussion we can talk about. And I know you've learned something. I mean, if you really want to showcase what you've learned, go ahead to the Evolve Your Success website, go to our podcast page, and let us know one thing that you've learned from these unfiltered discussions. And make sure you tune in next week, because we're going to get into the close. We're going to get into how to research your interviewer and much more. So we can't wait to see you again. Make sure you tune in next week for another episode within the Medical Sales Podcast of the Unfiltered Medical Sales Series. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a customized and personalized program that gets you into the medical technology industry as a sales professional, or any type of role for that matter. Become a top performer in your position and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolvesuccess.com by visiting our site, filling out an application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and allowing us to get you where you need to be. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews on the Medical Sales Podcast.